another big game this week that I have not gotten the chance to play yet. Is Fire Emblem Echoes Shadow of Valentia.
Shadow or shadows?
Shadows of Valentia.
There's multiple shadows?
And there's multiple echoes.
It's kind of the way Echoes work.
Fire Emblem in its plurality. Hit me with it. You played like 5 hours?
Yeah, so there's about 6 chapters in the game, and I've played almost to the end of the first one. Man, they really don't know what we're doing. So past Fire Emblem games on 3DS, right? They incorporated a lot of almost dating sim like aspects, which is enjoyable, in its own way. But this game doesn't really have much of that, and it's based on a game, as Callie mentioned, called Fire Emblem Gaiden, which came out on the original Nintendo Famicom in Japan.
It's one of the earliest Fire Emblem.
It's one of the earlier Fire Emblem ones.
Dank smell of mold permeates the shrine. That's dank.
Nice. So one of the things you just saw and you're currently looking at is this third-person exploration. So for the most part in this game, which let me just wrap up that last part, there's no relationship building in the traditional sense of Fire Emblem.
Good.
Okay. So
sever ties with everyone.
So essentially, the gameplay flow works as you move along a map with like a linear path, and there's a couple branches that go off. And you can explore dungeons or bump into enemies and get into tactical battles. The tactical battles are very familiar for what most people are used to from Fire Emblem recently. They've changed a few mechanics, so you can't pair 2 people on the same tile now. But there's also no more weapon triangles, so you're not going to have like advantages or disadvantages based on the specific category of weapon.
Right, there's more like weapon degradation management and stuff like that, rather than
there's no degradation.
There's not. There's more. Now I'm blanking on what our reviewer had this excellent paragraph all about, like all the cool changes and like departures from modern Fire Emblem. And now
like your inventory is very important.
Yeah, the inventory management is kind of one of the more strategic elements than if you're used to modern Fire Emblem, kind of like that spear, sword, axe matchup triangle.
Precisely, yeah. It's got a few other things going for it, like it allows you to rewind time during battles. You have limited uses based on something that you earn. But that's kind of interesting for a game like this, especially if you play with permadeath. Now, like if you play with permadeath, you're kind of supposed to just deal with it when people die. Like most normal people, though, we can't just let that happen. So we want to restart our old save and not let that person die. But this game can just let you rewind a few turns rather than start all over again.
That's the coolest thing to me is like you can obviously opt not to use it, but it's going to ease that like soft resetting thing that a lot of us do with Fire Emblem if you play with permadeath. But also you have to manage, because you only have a limited amount of rewinds. So you have to manage it. Like you could rewind because you didn't get like a good RNG on whatever hit you did, or you could rewind to save a character, and you kind of have to make that call.
Yeah. And sort of because the relationships are out of this, there's a huge focus primarily on the story, which kind of sets the tone for the game, which makes it like less lighthearted than most Fire Emblem games are, like mission to mission. There are conversations you can have with people during combat, which to me personally feel a little bit weird, because there's people trying to kill you and you're just like joking with your friend about some like old, like thing you guys have in common.
Isn't everything voiced too? Like a lot of it's
voiced.
Most
of it, yeah. I can't think of anything that wasn't. So pretty much, and again, the third person dungeon exploration stuff, it's pretty basic, but it's not as unwieldy as it might seem for a series that has never really had that before.
Yeah, that's my biggest question, because I've seen gameplay, obviously, like I read the review. I am not quite sure how that exploration works, because it sounds like it's a positive thing for the game, like it provides variety, but like
Definitely
what exactly are you doing?
So the 3 things you can do during the game when you're moving along the overworld map is bump into an enemy and get in combat, go to a town and use almost like point and click searching to like find items and talk to people, but then you will come across dungeons as well, and so you sort of enter those from the map, but you go to it and you click on it. And then it's just a third-person thing, and you're kind of exploring. It's not a huge space in the stuff that I've seen so far. You'll find items. You'll bump into enemies, and when you bump into an enemy, it breaks out into that typical, overhead 2D Fire Emblem battle system. It's not groundbreaking. Like it certainly isn't inventive, like compared to so many other games that are dungeon crawling RPGs. But it does help make this feel like a distinct Fire Emblem for sure, which. I felt like Fate's the biggest gimmick was the fact that there are 3 versions of the game,
Yeah.
And that was almost more of an annoyance, if anything.
Like, that was a big thing where it's like, because I know a lot of people who skipped Birthright because they were Fire Emblem veterans. And then you kind of like miss that piece of Faith, and you go to Conquest or Revelation. Whereas it's nice to have something that you know is standalone at least, and something that's more strategy focused. Of course, I'm bummed because I really like the relationship stuff in recent Fire Emblem games. And in any game. But I do appreciate having it seems like more focused, especially because it's like focused on two characters and their respective armies.
Yeah. And frankly, it's, it honors kind of Fire Emblem's roots as well. So it might upset a few people who are more used to the today's Fire Emblem stuff. But I think for folks like myself, especially, like I kind of enjoy just the focus on the political conflict and the military skirmishes and that kind of thing.
XCOM 2 was one of my favorite games last year. And in terms of the stripping the relationship things from this, I make the comparison just because it's the turn-based kind of more strategic overhead kind of stuff. Do you think I'll be interested in this, coming from that background?
I think you will. I don't think, like, when the little I've played of XCOM 2, I see there being very more depth to the variables that you have to manage in battle. Mm-hmm. This one is a little bit more straightforward. Okay. I think you'll still like it, though. I mean, thematically, it's interesting early on. Like, the game sort of presents this intro story where it shows these two characters as kids, and they're friends, and they're happy. But when you start the game, the first thing you see in the cutscene is one of them stabbing the other one through the chest, and the other one missing on purpose. And you're like, Jesus, like, what the hell happened?
So it kind of Tarantino it and then go back to the beginning.
Right, yeah.
Because you're managing two armies throughout the game, right? Mm-hmm. And one of them leads each of those.
Yeah.
We gave it a 9 out of 10. Mm-hmm. It's up, the reviews on GameSpot right now if you want to go look at it. You also wrote in the notes, DLC model is $, $, insane, $, $.
That is the one cloud hanging over this game. It's a $40 3DS game. The season pass for the DLC, which I think is like 5 packs, which probably includes a couple maps and a few items, $45.
Damn.
More than the game itself.
What's the game, 40?
Oh, I remember when you were like, because Peter sits across from me, so you were like, what the hell is this?
You tweeted about it, didn't you?
Yeah.
Of course you did.
Of course I did. I love tweeting.
Yeah.
I don't tweet that much. I was looking at my timeline last night. I don't tweet that much.
You don't really tweet.
You were too busy polishing your retro consoles.
Don't make me say it. Yeah, Fire Emblem is Echoes, I think, is a really good game.
We have a question about it. Let me pull my phone up quick so I can go to Twitter. In general, someone was saying, do you think there is a Fire Emblem fatigue now that there are 3 games in the 3DS? That's from Lloyd Christmas.
I'm feeling it a little bit.
I love that name.
And yes, that name is amazing.
So you do think that there's some fatigue setting in?
I am feeling it a little bit. But I think it's almost more in my head than like a real thing, because when I'm actually playing the game, I'm still really engaged in it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, like even playing Heroes on mobile was like, it just made me want to play Awakening. Like I didn't get tired of it.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. I can't be satisfied with Fire Emblem. I like it a lot.
It's definitely interesting because they're doing things differently than the other games that we've seen. That does help mix up things. So the fatigue isn't as bad as it might seem.
What about the Fire Emblem on the Switch?
What about it?
Do we know anything about it?
Nope. We don't know
Uma
much.
Does Ty was saying, based on the information that we have on Fire Emblem Switch, should we expect a return to form with that, or will it follow the current 3DS standards?
I guess I'm not privy to that information.
Neither am I.
Those games aren't tied down to the double screen like on 3DS, are they?
No, that just sort of provides you like a supplemental menu screen that you can look at.
Like stats for Fire
Yeah.
Emblem.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, like I said, our review is up on GameSpot. Heidi Kemp's, right? Our freelancer gave it a 9 out of 10. Go read that if you want more in-depth information. I'm going to be playing it later today. Jake Decker's pretty pissed that I have it because he likes Fire Emblem games a lot. It comes out Friday, right?
Yes, the 19th. People are talking about Fire Emblem Warriors, which is different from the Fire Emblem game on Switch that we're talking about.
Yeah, Fire Emblem Warriors is the Musou.
Right.
And then there's a different...
Right. There's an intelligent systems,
mainline
tactical...
Fire Emblem.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
Fire
a lot
Emblem
of Fire
Warriors
Emblem games.
Is the
Let it burn.
button matching Dynasty Warriors, Musou kind of stuff, right? Yeah.